Hello everyone, Squiz here. Welcome here to the book show. This is a special episode. It's actually not a normal one. I wanted to speak about a book today, but then I woke up this morning and I saw there's a question which I need to answer, or I will try to answer. And basically the question comes from a friend of mine called Mark Draper. He was actually also on Legacy Conversations. And he's not the only one who's asking me this question. I've been asked this by many people. Uh, But basically, what Mark said and what the rest said is, I would like to hear your views on what has happened in Iran over the last few days. Thanks, Chris. Now, let me first say to you, I'm not really that special. I wrote many books and I do follow history and I do follow current trends. And I do look at it from a viewpoint of the Bible. Because, in the Bible identify a country as being the second beast of the books of Daniel as well as the books of Revelation, then you would expect this country to at least actually start acting like the second beast. I mean, it has to. You either believe the Bible or you don't. And therefore you have to see if the prophecies are playing out. And then, of course, we also know we're in the end time, so it will be times like we've never seen before. And then there was that occult uh, books which were written here in the late 60s, and they started saying that the year of 2025 is when the occultists, that means the Satan worshippers, will start revealing themselves, which means they're going to start creating shite which you've never seen in your life. But it doesn't really matter, because if you're a believer, this is just going to wash over you. It's not going to bother you that much. God said He'll take care of you, and He will, even if you die. So we look at these things with disgust, absolute disgust, but also with a part of joy, I suppose, because we can see the end of times. So there's many ways of answering this. There's many ways. I mean, we can stick to tactical military at it. We can stick to uh, strategic military, or we can look at it from a biblical viewpoint, or we can combine all three to see if we can get sense out of what happened. Because a lot of the things you see in the world playing off is basically part of a bigger picture. It's part of the Hegelian dialectic many times, and it's also just part of the evilness of man. So just to summarize for you, because I don't know when you will actually watch this, and you know how it is with a news cycle, 3 days, 4 days, and people has forgotten about it. That's why it's worthless for a terrorist to go and blow up himself at a mosque or at a school or in a mall or airport or wherever, because you're not really going to gain much publicity. After a while, it's going to disappear within a day or two. Sadly so, it's a wasted exercise. I mean, how many of you remember that fellow who blew up a Tesla truck or something there in front of Trump Towers in Las Vegas or someplace? Um, very close to the time when somebody tried to kill Donald Trump again. How many of you even remember that? How many of you even remember the school shootings or what? People don't remember. They just carry on. So it's a useless exercise. But basically what happened here was that Iran has a nuclear program, and it has every right in the book and in law, international law, to have a nuclear program as long as it's not to make nuclear weapons. Now, even that is debatable, because who the hell are you, a few countries, to tell other people they don't have a right to have nuclear weapons? Only you do. That's bullshit. That's nonsense to begin with. I'm also of the opinion that nuclear weapons actually keep peace. Now, I know that people want to ban the bomb and they would march for it and they feel very strong. And guys, let me say to you, a lot of the things I'm going to say to you is things which you will probably disagree with. A lot of you will say, no, it's correct. And a lot of you will say it's just utter nonsense. But let's keep the debate civil. I mean, at the end of the day, my opinion was asked and I'm giving you my opinion. And if you don't want to hear my opinion, then don't listen. Uh, it, No one is forcing you. It's the same with the books. If you don't want to read the books and educate yourself, because no one read my books without being educated in some way. Not my words. That's what other people tell me, readers. Then don't do it. Don't do it. But don't let your fingers walk away with you on a keyboard. Because everything you do online is carefully monitored. And I know for a fact that a man like me with my background and the books I wrote, and especially the Legacy Conversation show, where we speak to military veterans in South Africa as well as other countries, but mostly South Africa and Rhodesians. We're not that interested in other countries, to be honest. I know for a fact that there are major intelligence agencies watching every word we say. And it's not a matter of me thinking it, I know it. Why? Because I've been warned, I've been approached, there's a lot of things happening in the background. So I want to state here that this is my opinion. It is not to say I'm speaking on behalf of Legacy Conversations or anybody else. In fact, I don't speak of any of them. I speak for myself, my own opinions, and that's it, and that's where it should stay. Now, you have the right to have a nuclear program. There is no doubt about it. And Iran complied with every single legal demand there is. Every single one. And they even had an agreement, a joint whatever agreement, which Donald Trump in 2017-18 broke. Basically, he just broke the agreement and walked away from it. And that was probably on behalf of a Jewish state. In other words, on behalf of Israel. It's got a tremendous influence over the US. And we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about AIPAC, and we'll talk about the Third Temple theory, because that's the idiocy which the Christian evangelists are following, Zionists, which we are following in the US, and they're totally wrong. It's totally unbiblical. There is no such thing as a Third Temple on earth. But they want to do it, and we'll discuss this, because we have to look at this a little bit broader than just, I would say, strategic or tactical. Because tactical, there's really not much to say. Basically, what happened was Iran has a nuclear program. Israel have been going on for the last 30 years, 3 decades, to say that Iran is about 2 days away, or 2 weeks, or 1 month, or whatever, away from making a nuclear bomb. Okay, why is that a problem for Israel? Because they believe, and they believe this. It's very idiotic to believe it or not, doesn't matter. They believe that once Iran has a nuclear weapon, they will definitely strike at Israel and then basically murder every Jew there with atomic weapons. And now, we looking from the outside think that's totally ridiculous to think that, because Iran hasn't attacked anybody in a conventional sense since the 17th century. While the opposite is true of Israel. Israel is attacking every single country around it. It is, in fact, following its master, the second beast, which is the US of A. In doing that, but I will get to that. But the Israelis will then point out to you that, yeah, that might be true, but the fact of the matter is that Iran is supporting all these proxies, which is from the Houthis to Hamas to whoever, the ones in Lebanon, Hezbollah, and so forth. And they are the ones who is actually striking at Israel all the time, causing mayhem and murder. And therefore, if you can cut the head off you, this other nonsense will stop too. Now again, I spoke to many Israelis about this because I worked with them in the shadows. It's in my books. And we become friends, because I'm not anti-Jewish in any sense of the word. In fact, my grandmother was Jewish, and so by definition was my father. If my mother was Jewish, then I would be considered Jewish as well. It doesn't matter what faith I have, because that's a way of looking at things. From an ultra-Orthodox side, of course, I am seen as Jewish, even if my mom wasn't, but my dad is. So, but I'm not of a Jewish faith, not at all. I reject the Jewish faith, in fact. I have not rejected Jesus, I've accepted Jesus, and there is no other way to heaven except through Jesus. That's what the Bible says. So don't come with words to me that I hate Jews and whatever. I've been told that also, which is just so much bullshit. And I'm giving you a clear warning. Make a comment here or start saying that I'm anti-Semitic and I will sue you. It's not a question of I will think about it. I will sue you. Because that's the biggest bullshit under the sun. If you read any of my books, and a lot of them has actually combined operations with the Jews, with Mossad, you will find that there's deep sympathy and respect, which comes out in the books. There's no hatred. And of course, I am married to Rebecca. Yeah, that name Rebecca should say something to you. And then also, I'm the one who wrote the When and Where books, which is about the Jewish army rescuing Jews from Nazi-occupied France, which is a fantastic story. It is really good books. If you haven't read it, please see if you can read it. And but I'm neutral here in the sense that I'm from the other side. I'm not involved. I don't really take sides here. I'm South African. I have no loyalty towards the Jewish state, and I have zero loyalty towards NATO or the US. I don't. So my views are from a different angle, I would say. So basically, despite Iran complying with every single rule and law and having oversight from that NNP treaty, the nuclear proliferation or something, I can't even say that word in English, treaty, basically, uh, they complied with everything. And there was even a treaty, the Joint Something Treaty, with the US underwritten by European powers. And Iran complied completely. They complied. But despite this, it doesn't matter whether they complied or not. The US then under Donald Trump moved out. In 2018, they just completely broke the agreement. They just walked away from the agreement, reintroduced sanctions. And they've been obsessed. The US has been obsessed with Iran since forever almost. In 1979, of course, there was the revolution there, where the Shah, who came to power illegally, by the way, because it was a coup d'etat in 1953 or 54, done by MI6 and the CIA. Yeah, they removed the elected leader by force, and they replaced him with a Shah, who was nothing but a damn puppet of the US. And of course, they've done that for oil in the first place. And secondly, it was also part of a great game against the Soviet Union and Communist China. Because Iran is vital. It's a vital country for those two because it can link. It is very possible that they can link with railways and pipelines and things right across between Russia and China. And also, Iran supply a lot of oil to China as well. And the US don't like that. They want to be the main man, main dog, whatever you call it, around, and so they don't allow any competition. And they have their little chihuahuas, which is NATO, the Western Europeans, who are just following blindly. It's amazing for us to witness. And which further complicates this is that Iran is now a BRICS country. Now, BRICS, I've been warning you about since 2014. You have to read my books to know what I'm talking about. Go and look at the map. I'll put it in for you here if I can find it, where these BRICS countries actually are situated, and wonder why. A lot of you would be very negative against the new South Africa, which ain't new anymore. But it's not the old apartheid South Africa, so we're talking about the new South Africa, which came into being in 94 when Mr. Mandela took over. And since then, things haven't gone right in that country. Things went just from extremely bad to now it's totally fucked up. There is no other word. I mean, I can't see it being turned around. And I always say to people, if you can get out of that country, get out. But that doesn't say I hate my country. I'm still loyal to my country. I was asked the other day, of course, if a war should break out, Where do you stand? Now, the question came from somebody who I actually respect and was probably not asked without reason. And the answer is simple. I'm a South African. I hold a South African passport. I will stand with my country. End of story. What's there more to say? You think patriotism is only in the US? Are you that stupid? But anyway, I don't always agree with what my country do, but it is my country at the end of the day. And I wonder where you people would stand. I wonder what you will do. Look, we're too old to go and fight now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Point I'm trying to make is I'm not loyal towards Israel and I'm not loyal towards the US or NATO at all. And if I look at the BRICS countries, I can clearly see, and I put this on record in my books, that they straddle all the commercial routes, all the lines of communication and logistics. And that's why a country like South Africa would be involved in BRICS. Not because it's a great country or has a great military or whatever, it is where it is situated, controls the sea route. And then you have to read my books like Codename Mel's Choice, and you'll find out about a massive Chinese military base, which is probably built now and finished at Maringwe in southeast Zimbabwe. And you have to wonder why it's there. Well, go and read the book, you'll find out. Go and read Codename Ghost. Look at the new harbor which was built by the Chinese in Walvis Bay. And then you listen to Africa Command and they say, oh, the Chinese has only one overseas military base there in Djibouti. You know so flippin' little, you know nothing. You know, we will look at you from the outside with contempt based upon your lack of knowledge, but it's incredible for how you find these people sitting there versus the US now. And they have these straight faces and they have all these grand titles and they talk absolute shite. You know they're talking shite, but they don't know that. That to me is amazing. So anyway, the BRICS countries are something else. If I think, and it's my belief, and may I never be tested, may it never actually happen. But it is my belief that should a war break out between Russia and China on one side, BRICS in other words, and the US and NATO on the other side, I see the US losing that battle and that war within a month. It will be over for them. They don't have the weapons, they don't have a capacity anymore, they don't have industrial capacity, they have nothing in fact. They don't even have an army. They have a small little army of 450,000 men. Yes, they can boost it with their reserves, but their reserves are quite pathetic. Their National Guard units, there's nothing good about them. You know, I spoke to people who served in Afghanistan as well as in Iraq for many years, and they're all former military officers. And as I often say to you, we look at these people, military people, with a different view. I look at a guy, if he's a military man, I want to see first he's in shape, which the US ain't. Half of them are overweight. That includes the US Marines, by the way. 1/3 of them are overweight, which means they're fat, which means they're not fit, which means they will struggle to survive in combat. Then secondly, I look at them and I want to see fire. I want to see that ability to fight. I don't see it with you. I don't see it. And then I also look at your equipment. How good's your equipment? How well taken care is the equipment? I look at your logistics. I look at your capabilities to replace whatever you lose in war. And frankly, you have fuck all. You don't have it. You don't have it. How do I say that? Let me give you an example. China can build 280 ships for every one you can build. China is building a Royal Navy every 2 or 3 years. What do you say about that? Must I talk about the contemptible little British army? You know, the one I can fit in a soccer stadium and there'll still be 40,000 seats empty. Huh? Huh? Must I tell you about what army in the world has more horses than tanks? Huh? Yeah, that's the Brit. Must I tell you about the RAF who went on on the road of affirmative action for their pilots. Now we don't have pilots. Oh, shame. Royal Navy, more admirals and fighting ships. Oh, shame. A few years ago, one of the nuclear submarines was actually involved in an incident. I think the Mediterranean, some civilian ship crashed into it or something, and they lost 25% of their deterrent. Then we had to find out they can't actually use their nuclear missiles from their submarines without US approval because it uses US codes and US satellite images and things like that. Really? Really? And still these people walk around and they think they can frighten everybody. They just need to rock up and they're gonna, you know what? I've said all these things before. It's in my books. You can go and read about it. But let me also say to you, I say these things not out of hatred. I say it because I'm warning you. I'm telling you, you're not as good as you are, and you're gonna see your asses. So let's get back to Israel. On Friday, I think the 13th of June, they actually attacked, surprise attack, like Pearl Harbor, without a declaration of war. They just attacked Iran, and Iran was totally caught unawares, which it should never have happened anyway, but they did. And it was a very well-planned attack, not only by the Air Force, and also by their spies. They had spy networks inside Iran, and they used drones and spies, and they committed acts of sabotage and outright murder. They obviously had a killing list. Now, as I say in my books, there's only one country in the world who actually goes out and murders people left, right, and center, and that's Israel. Yes, the assassination program since 1948, when they came to being, is, I think, more than 3,000 people have been murdered across the world, including another guy we spoke about at Legacy just recently. The video is not out yet, but we spoke about the G5 cannon, the G5 gun, and a guy called Gerald Poole, Dr. Gerald Poole, who was assassinated by Israel, apparently. Well, everything pointed towards him anyway. In France, I think in 1990 or 91, because he got involved with helping Saddam Hussein. That's a damn right to do. But if you do anything which Israel considers to be anti-them or against them, there is a very real chance of them coming to kill you. It is that simple. And they're very proud of it. I mean, they would call their operation something like Operation Wrath of God. That is the one which they implemented after the Munich massacres of the Olympic Games. You know, I spoke to Mossad members who said to me, Chris, what a waste. What a waste. I said, what do you mean? Of course you had to do it. I mean, these people murdered your people. I said, yeah, we did. And we did get a lot of them. But you know what? We have better things to do than just revenge. We exist to prevent an attack on Israel. That's what we do. So I have to wonder, with all these extra murders and killings or what, did that contribute to October the 7th when, you know, the surprise attack came from who was it, Hamas, outside occupied Palestine into Israel, which cannot be defended. You cannot defend what happened that day. But there were warnings. There were a lot of warnings which were actually ignored. And we still have a damn problem because Israel wouldn't negotiate. The hostages are not released because Israel will not negotiate. Why do I say that? Simply because America started negotiating, they got a hostage back. Russia started negotiating, they got their hostages back. Israel just won. They just go in with total force, destroy everything in their path, kill everything indiscriminatingly. Hospitals, schools, churches, as well as mosques, places of worship, everything which is against the rules of war and against war, they're doing it. And of course, the Israelis will say to me, of course, we don't have a choice, man. You see, they hide amongst these people and they bury the explosives and things there, and we have to do it. There's no other way. You know, you're talking shite. Of course, there's another way. You're going to suffer losses, but there is another way. You know there's another way. It's not that hard. You just take that area, you cordon it off, you start searching for it, and that's what you do. And then you start talking peace so that this nonsense can come to an end. Because up to now, your assassination program has helped you absolutely nothing. People hate you even more today. You're now a pariah. You're now a country which nobody likes. You have only one friend in the world, and that is the US of A. And the US of A, I'm telling you now, is the second beast in the Bible, which you won't believe because you don't read the Bible. You don't know what I'm talking about. But don't worry, I'll explain it to you. And besides that, your other problem here is the US of A is going to run away. They've got a track record of running away. You have to ask yourself a question, despite AIPAC, despite your control over US Congress, as far as it goes towards yourself, towards Israel. At what stage are the US going to run away and leave you in the lurch? When is that going to happen? And it's not a matter of if. Trust me, at some stage they're going to run away, they're going to abandon you, and then what? Then what? Especially if you think what the second beast is and who the second beast are actually serving. Because those people they're serving don't like you. Go and read the Oath of Evil. Go and read the Oath of what the Jesuit Order of the Catholic Church actually take. Go and read it. It's in my books. If you don't have it, ask me. I'll give it to you. Or search around on the internet. They say there, I will go as low as to become a Jew. You think people who say that actually admire you? Yeah? That's the church who said that you murdered Jesus. And they're still saying it. If you read my latest book, Codename Snake 606, you'll find that I actually discuss this so-called apology from the Catholic Church towards you, which was done by the late Pope. And I say there to you, in my opinion as an attorney with decades of experience, this is utter bullshit. It's not an apology. Not at all. Basically what the guy says is, well, we can't blame you people for what happened 2,000 years ago. Right? But that on the same time says, without saying it, I still blame you. Yeah. You handed Jesus over to be crucified to the Romans, and that's exactly what happens. That's reviewed to this very day. Do you think my Israeli mates that they actually like you? You're an idiot if you think that. Stop thinking that. They don't like you. And if it is so that the US is actually the second beast and they're bowing down towards the Pope, and the papacy was actually in control, not you. You're just being used. Read my books. I've got all the evidence. There's reasons why I say these things. Then what the hell do you think is going to happen to you when they abandon you? And they will abandon you. It's going to happen at some stage. But anyway, so Israel went out and they attacked not only the nuclear scientists and the general staff of the Iranian army, they also attacked the nuclear sites. So in other words, they attacked what the law says and international law says and the rules of war says you should never attack. They started attacking the nuclear facilities. Yeah. Started bombing them. I wonder if you actually did you consider what would happen if there's a leak taking place? Huh? Where would that leak go to? To Europe or to you? Do you know what happens when there's a leak, a nuclear spillage? Do you remember Chernobyl? Do you remember the panic? You don't attack dams, you don't attack nuclear facilities, you just don't. And not with bombs anyway. If you need to do it with a commando raid, or you have to go and do it with your spies, then yeah, of course you can do it. Because then you can limit the damage. But this was not like that. So you suddenly just went out and attacked Iran against every single law in existence, which makes you a rogue state. It's rogue state behavior. And then, of course, Iran struck back, as they said they would. It took them a while, yes, and they started launching their missiles at you. And if you clearly look at all the statistics which is coming out now, those missiles actually got through. Now, you can bullshit and you can play your propaganda game as much as you want. The fact is, those missiles got through. And the fact is, Israel can't take it, and they couldn't take it. Because you're not used to being bombed. Nobody is, unless you're a Palestinian person or you're in Ukraine or or places like that, or in the new four provinces of Russia, which has been bombed for many, many years before the war broke out. People are not used to that type of thing. It is not to say we are cowards, not saying that. What I am saying is, in the first place, your air defense systems ran out of missiles. Now, of course, you will deny that, but I don't care. That's my opinion. You ran low on it, and because you ran low on it, after 2 weeks, you had to call uncle. So what did you do? Within a week, suddenly the US, the second base, gets involved and they attack these very same facilities which you attacked and couldn't destroy. Now, it came out that this was actually all arranged. It's all arranged. If you look through the bullshit and whatever else, and the greatest military in the world, and the greatest raid, and the greatest that, and the biggest, and the best, and really, all what basically happened is the B-2s stealth bombers, and they ain't stealth, I'll get to that. They actually took off in the US, they flew all the way to Iran, many refuelings, and there was a lot of disinformation going on at the background, which people have learned now. The moment that your press, which is in your pocket, starts declaring that there's bombers going there, and there's bombers going there, and there's this happening, Iran and the rest of the world now will know to look somewhere else, because you blew your tactics. It's the same with you, Israel. You blew your spy networks for fucking what? Excuse my language, for what? For pinprick raids? Do you think you can actually win a war with your spies? No, you can't. Not a war. You can perhaps get a regime change. That's possible. And that's probably what you were hoping to do. You never expected this reaction to coming back at you. And you were damn lucky that the Iranians actually agreed to this. I don't know why they did. And I can tell you, if the Iranians doesn't get a nuclear bomb now, they're stupid. They really should now get a nuclear bomb. Because it seems to me it's the only way to protect yourself. It is the North Korea scenario. North Korea will not be attacked because they have nuclear weapons. That's simple. That's simple. So the Iranians are now going to think exactly what I just said. They're going to think, well, you know what, we tried diplomacy, we tried to satisfy the West, we tried to do everything, and look what happened. That's exactly what they're thinking now. So it's a home goal. It's a total home goal. What did you get out of this? Absolutely nothing. And you, the US, what did you get out of it? Well, you flew it, I think, what did it cost you? $100 million? They say even more. You flew there, you dropped your so-called mother of all bombs. Now, you idiots, do you actually know that there's something called the father of all bombs? No, you don't know that. No. That's a Russian bomb. Permabarrack. Yeah. You come up with all these wonderful names, But when it comes down to actual practical, it's shite. It didn't work. It did not work. You flew there, you drop your bombs, and those places are not destroyed. They're not destroyed. We've seen the evidence. I spoke to people. They're not destroyed. Even your own US intelligence report from a defense intelligence agency says to you, no, we don't know where the enriched uranium is, and we don't know if it was destroyed or not. Now, of course, you can say that they're just setting it up for another raid, and they probably are. And that's probably why the Iranian foreign minister was in Russia, and he probably asked for proper air defense systems, which we thought were there already. And sadly, it wasn't. Because I tell you now, if the S-400s and S-500s go into Iran, you will not get close to it. You won't. Now, let me tell you something else. There were two Chinese satellite interceptor type of ships there in close to Iran. Two of them. And I suppose they would have been escorted by a few naval vessels as well. So guess what? These intelligence collecting vessels has actually tracked your entire raid. And I can guarantee you, once they've done that, they would share that information through the BRICS channels to wherever they think should know. That is Russia, and whoever else, Iran as well, Iran. So what have you done now? You've betrayed once again all your secrets, because there's only that many ways of doing it. And so these bombers flew, they dropped their bombs. For once, they might have actually even hit something. There were no one at those bases. There were nothing of importance there. The intelligence says they removed everything 2-3 days before. And then came the Iranian counterattack, which was symbolic. Once again, 14 bombs were dropped on them by the US, so they fired 14 missiles back at the missile, at the air base, I think, in Qatar. But as Donald Trump also said, they were warned, and so they removed everybody, and so they bombed an empty base, and they only used 14 missiles. Now, there's something wrong with the maps here. Why didn't the Iranians work it out? Well, you dropped 14 50,000-pound bombs on us, so we should have how many? 2,000 pounds, say, warheads for our missiles. Therefore, we should have dropped, what, about 50, 60 of these missiles on you? That would have been a bit more fair. But instead, they backed down and they said, we're going to only do, 14 for 14 or whatever it was. It's pathetic. It's pathetic because it solved nothing. It just proved to you that Iran can actually shoot their missiles at you and they're going to eat you, as they did with your murder of Soleimani. Now tell me, did the murder of Soleimani, did that bring you anything? No, it brought you nothing. Nothing. And again, it was the same way of doing it. The guy was actually out there in Iraq to negotiate, I believe, with the Iraq Prime Minister. He was there on a truce. And what is fascinating from a counterterrorism viewpoint is that from the West, not talking about Israel, because Israel will be stuck on their view that Iran is the major enemy because it supports Hezbollah, Hamas, and whoever else, the Houthis. So they are the enemy, clear. But from a Western side, all these terrorist groups, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the ones in Africa as well, all of them are Sunni terrorists, they're not Shia. Therefore, they are supported by who? Mostly Saudi, Pakistan as well as Qatar probably. So that's your enemy. If you were West and you're being attacked by these terrorists at 9/11, places like that, those three countries which I just mentioned to you are the main instigators of terrorism. And Saudi is way ahead of all of it. All of it. And yet you see exactly the opposite. Here you see that Iran was actually attacking these people, and Soleimani, or whatever his name was actually quite involved with this, with attacking ISIS and Al Qaeda. But yet you hate Iran. You want to attack Iran. It makes no sense. It actually makes no sense. Unless you start thinking about it on a higher level, where you start accepting what the Bible says, that there's three powers. You have a dragon, which is Satan, which is a fallen angel, which has been expelled from heaven, with all his angels who followed him, which is a lot of it. Some people say 200 million. We got to earth. That's where your demons and things come from. And then there came a little beast, a little horn, the first beast. It was a terrible beast. This is predicted in the books of Daniel and Revelation. That first beast became known as the Catholic system. I'm not saying that Catholic is a human being. Don't put words in my mouth. Not what I said. Go and read Oath of Evil and wake up to what actually is happening. And then it says, the Bible says, this beast, this horrible beast, this first beast is going to suffer a mortal wound, but it won't kill it. Sadly so, it won't kill it. It will recuperate. It will be restored at some stage. That happened. In 1798, General Belair or something from the French army, who was a total satanic type of place at that stage. So they even banned the Bible. Yeah, they did that during the revolution. Do you know that? And before that, of course, it was a Catholic country. And it's a Catholic country today as well. Remember that when you talk about France. And they removed the papacy, and the papacy then had its mortal wound. And at the same time, the second beast started arising there on the other side of the Atlantic, the US of A, exactly as the Bible predicted. And the superpower of the day, France, actually recognized the US then as an independent country. But the US at that stage was actually a Protestant country. So how did it change from being a Protestant country? People who actually fled from Catholic suppression in Europe and elsewhere, they actually fled it and they went to the US, and today the US is the second beast, which means that it's under the domination of Rome. Because the Bible says that this second beast will talk like a lamb, but it will act like a dragon. So in other words, it will look like a Christian nation, but it will act in ways which is totally satanic. And that's exactly what's happening. So the jihadis are wrong when they call you, and that I include the Iranians as well, the ordinary ones, when they call you the great Satan. You're not the great Satan, you're the second beast of the Bible. It's even worse, to be honest. Because that Protestant nation now has changed into something which bows down to Rome. Now you can ask me for evidence. Well, read my books and see the pictures I posted for you and look at the links and you'll find that. But let us just look at is the US actually acting like that? Now, it's fascinating because since 1941, the US has not formally declared war on anybody. Yet it invaded who? Let's look at it. Afghanistan, Iraq, Haiti, Iraq again, Panama, Grenada, Laos, Cambodia, Dominican Republic, Cuba, the Bay of Pigs, like right, North Korea, that was during the Korean War. Yeah, you know, it's amazing. It's an amazing country. Invaded all those things. So this is really acting like a second beast who's implementing the will, which is fascism, of the first beast. And the first beast gets his power from where? From Satan. Very interesting. Because if you read King James Bible, Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians verse 5:3, it says the following, and you guys must remember this. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. Yeah, that's how it is. And this is exactly what we saw now, isn't it? The US came to Iran, peace, let's talk, let's have meetings, let's see it. Let's throw with the black diplomacy thing. Boom! Next moment they attack. Yeah, right out of the Bible. So who else did the US attack by dropping bombs on them since 1945? Which is air piracy, by the way, because again, if there's no declaration of war, and you go out and you start bombing people and your pilots are shot down and they are captured, like what happened in North Vietnam, when the North Vietnamese have every right in the world to keep you in jail because you are an air pirate. That is according to international law. It's not to say you should mistreat the people. I speak about this in many of my books and I speak out against it. Nobody should be mistreated in prison or anywhere else. But the fact is, yeah, don't come crying that you're looking for trouble here. Of course your pilots are going to be abused. It's just going to happen. Look at that pilot of the Jordanian Air Force who was captured by, I think, ISIS and was burnt alive in a cage. I speak about that in my books as well. Because you're really up against animals. When you start talking about these terrorists, they're not peace-loving people. Now, that's true. But you have to ask, what made them like that? What made them like that? Is it perhaps you people who keep on dropping bombs on people, killing the innocent, murdering them, keeping them resting like in a concentration camp? Huh? Do you think that might play a role? Of course it plays a role. I've interrogated many of these people. But you know what they would say to me? They say, you know what, I wasn't like that. I wasn't born a terrorist. I was just a normal guy or normal woman. And the next moment they murdered my auntie, or they murdered my mom, or they killed my brother, or Well, we did something. And that's when I decided I'm going to pick up a rifle. Now, while you're still picking up a rifle, it's not a major issue because you can only do that much damage. But should you read Codename Caribbean, read Codename Caribbean and you'll find out about the new trend which we have in counterterrorism about maritime terrorism. And then you will find out that those terrorists who actually attacked Mumbai in India in 2005 or 8, can't remember, 2008 perhaps, they were actually not tasked and trained by Pakistani special forces to go and attack Mumbai. They were supposed to take a ship, a passenger ship, and if they could have one of these LNG ships. Now let me tell you, if I take 100,000 tons LNG ship and I can make it explode, and I damn well can, everybody can. It's not that difficult. Then that thing will explode to the same power as 55 atomic weapons, which was used at Hiroshima. Yeah, that's a real threat. Because if that thing can be made to explode in New York or in London or one of the other harbors, Haifa, boom, you're gone. There's nothing left of you. Nothing left of you. So you see there's great threats going on. And it's caused by the worst counterterrorism efforts I've ever seen in my life. Again, I ask you, what did your assassinations bring you? Nothing. You're still being attacked. You're still being attacked. But let us look at this. Which countries was bombed by this US? Let's look at it. China. They bombed China between 1945 and 46. Korea, 1950 to 53. That was a police action. China again, 1950 to 53. Guatemala, 1954. Indonesia, 1958. Cuba, 1959 to 60. Guatemala again, 1960. The Belgian Congo, 1964. Guatemala once again in 64. Dominican Republic, 65 to 66. Peru, Laos, 64 to 73. Vietnam, 61 to 73. Cambodia, 69 to 70. Guatemala, once again. Lebanon, 1982 to 84. Let me just say something about Lebanon. A lot of you people out there talk about the US Marines being killed in the Beirut barracks attack. They actually tried to use thermobaric bombs there when they did it, and all of you say it's Iran. Well, it might have been a proxy, but it wasn't Iran directly. But do you people actually know that also 58 French paratroopers died that day? Huh? Do you know that? No, you don't. No, you don't. You know. Your views on history is really bad. You know a small little slice of it, and that's all you know. And it grieves me and it annoys the hell out of me when I hear you people talk about, the Marines died there. Yeah, they died. I'm sorry about it. But don't forget the other people who died there as well. Or don't forget about the CIA station chief who was actually captured by terrorists and tortured to death. Don't forget about that. Because you are dishonoring these people's memories by just having selective memory. Wake up. And then, of course, Grenada. You know, that great attack of your Grenada where the Navy SEALs actually got their time wrong and they went in too late. Yeah, well, we learned from that. Libya, 1986, I think that was the shelling with the battleships, which achieved, what did it achieve? Absolutely F all. Panama, yeah, you had to cover for your drug trade. Iraq in 91, yeah, okay. But let me say here, the US military of 1991 and the US military of 2025 is not the same thing. And it's not me saying so. Go and listen to what people like Colonel McGregor, who actually became famous in that first Iraq war as a tank commander. Go and listen to what these people have to say or read Military Might Debunked. You'll be surprised. Then Kuwait, 91, that was part of Iraq. Somalia, yeah, where you saw your asses. Bosnia, yeah, where you started the war without any reason whatsoever. That's also at Bosnia where you came out with the idea that you're above the law. Yeah, I write about these some things in my books. That is where you started saying that the coalition force member or a US member or NATO member, whatever crime he commits in that country where he's committing crimes, because there's no war declared. It doesn't matter. We will take care of it from the military side, which you don't. And then we will, you cannot be arrested or be subjected to local laws. Bingo. You can go there, do whatever the hell you want, and get away with it. Read Moises War Crimes USA, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And you'll also see, once again, how this feeds into even more destabilization as well as chaos. That's what you're doing. It is causing it. I don't care what your intentions are. I know what your intentions are. If you're a second beast, we know exactly why you're doing this. But I'm not talking now on a tactical level. Guy was going out there doing his best. I think, perhaps, I don't know. He's probably not even aware of the things I'm telling you now. But anyway, Bosnia was the turning point where NATO actually became not a defensive alliance, but became a offensive alliance, willing to attack anybody everywhere as long as the US is covering their little asses. Then in Sudan in 1998, remember when Billy Goat Clinton, when he was caught having not sex with a certain woman, no sexual relations, the blowjob episode there in the White House with Lewinsky or whatever her name is, not even, anyway. Yeah, then suddenly cruise missile attacks were launched against Sudan to divert attention. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Wasn't even effective. In fact, the CIA afterwards said it was this bullshit. Then Afghanistan and Yugoslavia, Serbia, Afghanistan again, Libya, Syria, Iran. There you go. You were attacking just bloody well everybody. You are really forcing your will upon everybody. It's exactly what the Bible said. And it's not surgical at all. If you think that these attacks were surgical, you have no idea what you're talking about, man. You people don't know what a surgical strike means. And 98%, well, no, 96.2% of the time, you're actually attacking the wrong people. Yeah, that's a drone strike. Statistics at one time under Obama, but 96.2% of the time you would attack the wrong people, kill the wrong people, get away with it, and then what happens? You created more terrorists. Yes, that's what you've done. By chance? No, of course not. No, it's not by chance. There's a greater plan here. Of course there is. So let me just summarize again the Iran attack. Let's look at it. In the first place, there was nothing great military about it because it was all arranged. You didn't fight your way through. You actually arranged it. You flew there like a training mission. That's what Colonel McGregor actually called it. A training mission with live weapons. That's all it was. But I'm sure that the pilots and the people involved will now get high decorations, which is another thing why we laugh at you. We look at you and we laugh at you with all your decorations. Let me be blunt. Let me be straight to you. If you can have a medal 9 times in a row, then your medal is worth shit. It's worth nothing. Go and look at your commanders in the Second World War and First World War and see how few medals they actually had. Very few. Then it was worth something. You know what's it worth it when a man gets the same medal 9 times in a row? No, please. You know where this started? Vietnam. Go and read and understand what your pilots were saying. Okay, if we fly 25 missions to North Vietnam, we will get this medal. If we fly, say, 40 missions to North Vietnam, we will get this medal. You see where I'm coming from? I haven't done anything special. You just flew the missions. And it's pathetic. And that is why I keep on saying you are low standards military. It's all you are. You are low standards military. There's nothing special about you. You think there is, but the results doesn't show that. Not the least. So this was all arranged. It came out. There was a deal between Iran and the US. Okay, you can come and bomb this, but we will remove everything first, and we won't attack you, we won't shoot at you, And then in return, we will launch some missiles at a base in Qatar. And we just call it a day, and now we say it's peace. The Bible says that these people, when it talks about the north and the south attacking each other, it says, but they all sit at the same table. Yes, read Oath of Evil. So you see these things are being arranged, and then it bullshit you from the side, and you have people like Trump and Hegseth and who else who just, oh, greatest military, oh, we're the best in the world. The fact of the matter is, Iran still has its nuclear program. Hear what I'm telling you. They still have the nuclear program. You've succeeded with nothing. Nothing. You'll have to go back to finish the job. And you will. Everybody expects you now to come back. You will never be able to invade Iran, simply because you don't have the manpower. And simply because we know your tactics. We know exactly how you'll do it. I've been warning about this for a long time because I've seen the preemptive strike plans. If you should say, let's say in a place like South Africa, you go to your base in Botswana, Gaborone, and you start building up your military forces there because you now want to attack South Africa. At the same time, your carrier strike groups. Now, I use the word strike. There's a damn big difference between a battle group and a strike group. You cannot even have a battle group in your carriers anymore. You don't have it. You don't have the ships, you don't have the people. And you definitely don't have the logistics. You're running out of missiles. A strike group is much smaller. And what's your problem there? If your carrier should be sunk, and there's a few thousand sailors actually survive, you don't have enough ships around them to pick them up. They will keep on drowning. That's how pathetic you've become. And we know these things. And we know that how you work it out. First, you will start like, and if you read intelligence briefing, where we talk about the Skripal poisoning, which was a false flag operation, and other things which we discussed there, you will find out that first you dehumanize whoever you want to attack. You will start saying that this guy is Hitler. Yeah, he's Hitler. You know, that Catholic chancellor of Nazi Germany. Yeah, everybody's Hitler now. And if he's a good guy, then he's Winston Churchill. But Winston Churchill wasn't a good man. Winston Churchill was an idiot. Winston Churchill was a war criminal. Winston Churchill was a 53-degree Freemason. Do you know that? Huh? He's a Satan worshipper. Do you know that? Do you know he was a Druidic priest? Huh? Do you know that? Do you know that he was actually drunk at cabinet meetings and wanted to poison gas Tokyo? Huh? Do you know that? Yeah, we know these things, but it doesn't matter. To your limited understanding, you either have a Hitler or you have a Churchill. That is how far you can argue. And do you know why? Because you have a reading ability of a 14-year-old child. That is more than half of the US. That's how far you understand things. You can't even read my books, to be honest. There's a tiny minority of you who can read a G.M.J. novel and understand my message. Because the rest of you just can't. And I will put the slides in here for you to actually prove what I just said. Not me saying it. Your own scientist has done the research and they said that. Yes. And that is why you should look at the US and you have a small elite. And even that's a problem because if you read my books, you'll find out that there is no real difference between the US and a place like Saudi, where a few families are actually controlling you. And I'll put the slide in for you so you can look at it yourself. Not me saying it, your own scientists are saying that. But we on the outside can see we can see the actual results of this. And it then comes down to the fact that it's all about big business. Whatever the common man in the street wants is unimportant to you. What you want in life is whatever people are bribing you to do, and you are being bribed. I will speak about AIPAC just now, so that we can understand where this comes from. The fact of the matter is, after the bombing strikes took place, Trump was immediately begging. You know what? He was begging on Truth Social let's talk peace now. This is time for peace. We shouldn't. Don't retaliate. Don't attack us. Because the Iranians could have attacked all your bases. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why. Because that would have brought a response, I suppose. But it would have taken you 2 years to build up your forces. Because that's what you do. You go to a neutral country, or it's not neutral at all, but you go to a country next to you want to attack, and then you build up your forces there, conventional forces, which you don't have anymore. By the way, you don't have it. You're not in 1991 anymore. You don't have it. And then you start an air campaign, and then your army marches in. That's your tactic. We know it. You try that against a place like China or Russia, or a country which can actually defend itself, will wipe you out before you even set up your air defense system, because we know what's going to follow. You see, that's a problem what happened in the last 2 weeks. You are now exposed. The rest of the world, where they were still wondering about you, are not wondering anymore. They know what you are now. They know what they're dealing with. They know what you're dealing with. You've lost more out of this than what you could ever gain. And then you, of course, have to wonder, why? Why did this happen? But let's look at the results first. Israel, I think you lost the war. Yes, that's my opinion. I think you lost. I think at the moment that your first strike didn't work out, and there was no regime change, and the missiles start coming back, you were in shite street. And it's not only me saying so. I have friends in Israel who said this to me. Who said to me, Chris, we're sitting in bunkers and we are fearful. We've never experienced something like this. Yeah, you never did. You never did. It's coming up. And guess what else, guys? I wonder how the US civilians will react when this starts happening to them. Because up to now, it never really did. Why not? Because you have 2 big, beautiful oceans around you. Yes, but you need a proper US Navy to actually defend those oceans. You don't have it anymore. You don't have it. Go and read Codename Lucy. There's also in Codename Lucy where I speak about the Chinese spy vessels who were tracking your B-2. That's what my friends in China tells me. They know everything about you. They will study this attack in great detail. They're studying it as we speak. You blew your cards. You blew your ice cards for what? Man, it's amazing. It's like that attack on Yamamoto. You know, the guy who actually did Pearl Harbor, and he was against it. He warned his government. It's not going to be a fatal blow. The US will come back, and the US did come back. In those days, you actually had shipyards. Yes, the US built in 3 years 124 aircraft carriers. Today, you can't even build a rowing boat in 3 years without spending billions of dollars. It's amazing. It's amazing how you've gone down. I don't know how you're going to sort this out, and I don't care. I'm not American. I don't give a shit. In fact, I'm banned in your country. I can't even go there. When my late wife was dying in Florida, I was refused permission to even bury her. Yeah. And I will ask you why. No answer. Nothing. No. Why did you ban me? Oh, you were seen with people who we think are terrorists. Yeah, you might think we're terrorists. Not to say that we think we are terrorists. Yeah. Whatever. Don't expect sympathy from me, but expect the truth. Because I still have sympathy for you. Because of my late wife. She was a wonderful person. And an American patriot. And do you know that she even lost her top secret clearance the moment she started dating me? And she reported me, as I asked her to do. I said to her, Melissa, I'm not a normal person. I have a background in the shadows. You have to report me to your superiors. They should know that I'm not active anymore, that I've never acted against you. And if they need to speak to me, the door is open. You know what they did? They removed her security clearance immediately. She lost her job. It led to a death. That was one of the major factors why she died. That's the US system for you. Anyway, Israel, you couldn't take it. That's my opinion. You couldn't take it, and then you had to find out your air defense system is not as great as you think it was. It wasn't good. I've been warning you for years, and I said to you that this thing of yours is designed for terrorist attacks. It will not work against the proper military. Ballistic missiles coming in, a lot of them, you will never be able to stop all of them. Remember in the Second World War, just before it, people were talking about the bomber fleets. And the saying was, a bomber will always get through. I'm saying this to all of you here. Missiles will always get through. So you are going to suffer injuries and damage if you start a war with a country who is bigger than you and who is able to strike back at you. You are going to suffer that. Why you couldn't figure that out, I don't know. I don't know. Why you even had to get an order out to refuse. Refuse. I've seen that order. I have it. Where Israelis with dual citizenship was refused to actually leave a country. Yeah? Why? Because he was scared they are running out and they will never come back. No. I would have said, if a man is like that and he doesn't want to fight and he wants to run away, by God, let him go. Don't keep him there. You don't want a rotten apple like that close to you. Rather have. What happened in the Bible? Even you Jews will know about this. Wasn't it Joshua or somebody who got a whole bunch of people who didn't want to fight, and then he got a group of people that went on a forced march, some of the prophets, and these people were then more willing to fight, and they were sort of, selected, and they went out, and with God's help, they defeated the enemies. Yeah. That's the other thing. From a Bible viewpoint, the Jewish nation is not, repeat, not the chosen ones anymore. According to the prophecies, and when Stephen was stoned to death, that is where this chosen people came to an end, according to the Bible. Now, I know a lot of you will say to me, anti-Semitism. No, I'm quoting you the Bible. Read over evil. You are not the chosen people anymore. It came to an end. And then the faith was moved over to the Goyen, which is me. And the word Goyen is not a nice word, is it? But it was moved over to us. And we became Christians, and we took that mantle. And now we are all children of Abraham. Remember what I said to you in the beginning? There's only one way to heaven, through Jesus. Now I'm explaining to you what the Bible is saying. So don't start attacking me when I say these truths to you, because obviously you don't want to hear it. But live in your dream world and see what's going to happen to you further. Because you've lost this war. You couldn't take it. You ran out of interceptor missiles. You started crying for assistance from the US. And you got it. But the US cannot supply you these interceptor missiles either. They ran out as well. What's going to happen in the future? Almost certainly what is going to happen is that Russia and China is going to assist Iran to get a proper air defense system. Because if you think you had freedom of skies and you controlled the skies, you're talking shut. You never did. It was standoff attacks with missiles coming in together with your spy networks inside. I understand that more than 3,000 or 4,000 people has already been arrested in Iran for assisting you. Yeah, they got good counter-espionage people once they wake up. They're gonna clean house. They're gonna get the air defenses in place. And the next round, it's going to be worse for you, even worse. And you know what? Because you broke every single law and every rule of law, as well as the UN Charter with your sneaky attack, no one has sympathy for you. They don't like you. I'm saying these things with great regret because I like you. I think you're wonderful people. And yet, you're on this road. You're on this road to destruction. Because your tactics are not working, and yet you just keep on repeating them. Do you not have any von Clausewitzes there, or Mansteins, or any people who can actually think? Or is your political system corrupt, or what? I don't know. But you'll have to look at yourself for a long, long time here. Because the perception in war is everything. I write about it in different books. Perception, perception, perception. Read intelligence briefing. Read American military might debunked. The perception out there is you have lost Israel and you are not as mighty and great as you think you are. In fact, you never were. But the fact is, now everybody knows it. Now the Arabs and your enemies are thinking, well, perhaps, we can take you. And so the only thing which can protect you now is the US of A. So now let's look at that. Let us look at something called AIPAC. Now let me say to you guys here, if you say anything negative about AIPAC and you in the US, you will never get a job. You will be banned. You will be told that you are anti-Semitic. You will be crucified. You'll be attacked all over the place. And yet this is in at least 12 of my books, which is the reason why these books are so suppressed. Which is why if you find anything of value in my books, please get hold of the books in paper. Because I don't know how long it's going to be available in audio or in Kindle. And I've also found out, I caught them out. I think it was Cope and Castleberry, but I might be wrong. There's so many of them, where Amazon actually went and changed the manuscript. And why did they do that? Because Barack Obama made a fool of himself. He said something like, yeah, you know, this ISIS people, they actually the junior league or something like that. He said something like that. And the very next day, these very same people attacked France. They attacked Paris. And I think more than 115 people or something died. And France is still under martial law because of it. That was 2015. And they went out and see my video on this. And they went out, this Amazon, and they just removed that passage. Just took it out, man. They just took it out. They have no right in the world to do it. But what do you think? Do you think I can get through the red tape to do something about it? No, I can do nothing. All I do to you guys is, guys, if you find value in my books, please buy your things in paper. Because yes, they might be updated now and then. Open Evil definitely is, as new information comes out and prophecies play out. But 99.9% it's the same book. In other books, I might find there's a typing error. Let's correct it quickly. Unimportant. But the fact of the matter is, get the things in paper if you can, because then it can't be changed. But let's talk about AIPAC. Now, AIPAC stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee. And it is said that this is the way of Israel, the Jewish state is actually controlling US Congress. Now, there's a lot of evidence for this. There's a lot of evidence because they only exist to bribe US Congress members, and they do it very well. There's a guy called Eric Gallagher. He was a top official at AIPAC between 2010 and 2015, and he said to an Al Jazeera reporter, and I don't know if he was aware that he's being recorded or not, I don't know. But he said, getting 38 billion in security aid to Israel matters, which is what AIPAC just did. Everything AIPAC does is focused on influencing Congress. Must I repeat this to you? Yeah, let me repeat this to you. Getting $38 billion in security aid to Israel matters. That's about the amount which is loaned to Israel every year, $38 billion US. That is a massive amount of money, which they then use to fund people like AIPAC organizations, and then that money is being used to make sure that the Congress votes the way it votes. Yeah. It's totally interfering in a different country's politics. There's no other way. And it's not only me saying so. Listen to what Senator Bernie Sanders and other Jews actually have to say about this. Don't crucify me because I'm not a Jew. Don't tell me I'm anti-Semitic because I report the facts to you. This is your words. You said that, not me. I'm just repeating your words to you. Yeah, because I was a trial lawyer and a damn good one. And I know what I'm talking about. And I can see the results of this too. And I've warned you. You're taking hands with a second beast. And when this second beast runs away, what the hell are you going to do? Tell me. What are you going to do when they leave you in the lurch? Yes, they will, because they're setting you up. That's what it comes down to. And in the meantime, the Jews are blamed for everything. Yeah, you control Hollywood, man. You control all the newspapers. Yeah, you control the US Congress. Yeah. And what happens? People hate you. But if the US is the second beast, then it's not you, Mr. Jew boy. It's not you controlling Mr. Israeli. It's not you controlling them. No, it's not. It's wrong. It's a papacy. That's what the Bible says. And the papacy is controlled by who? Huh? What do I hear? Satan, the dragon. You see what's happening here? The Jews are being made the scapegoats. And yes, they are assisting with this type of thing like AIPAC. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And if you look further, there was a person, I'm trying to get a name now, Georgia Representative Cynthia McKinney. She was a Democrat. Well, she's still alive, I suppose, but she said it was in 2011 already. She served 6 terms. So she was there for what, 12 years at Congress. And she says there's a mysterious pledge at Congress which all newcomers must sign. And now she repeats the pledge. Let me repeat it to you. First place, Jerusalem is the capital city of a Jewish state, not Tel Aviv. Yeah? Well, that happened because Donald Trump moved it to West Jerusalem. Recognize that as well as the Golden Heights. Yes. And guess what? Biden administration and those following in the rest of the world just ran along. No problem. They did that. Did the Bible not say that the entire world, the whole world will follow the beast? Did they not say that, the second beast? Yeah, they don't. Then she goes further and says, let me repeat this pledge. Jerusalem is the capital city of a Jewish state, not Tel Aviv, and that the military superiority of Israel will never be placed in jeopardy. There you go. So in other words, the US will make sure that Israel has military dominance in the Middle East, and that the new Congress member will also support all economic assistance that Israel wants. Wow, there's an open checkbook. Huh? Israel, what do you want? How many billions? Come. Let's write the money. And then, of course, no, it's a loan. And then come Congress every year. Yeah, we write it off. We just write it off. It's beyond shocking, it is absolutely amazing. And then you have your dual citizenship. Now, there's some people who say this is actually hate speech. You're not allowed to say just because a guy has dual citizenship or is a Jew that he's automatically more favorable towards Israel. And that's true. Of course it's true. It's the same with, it doesn't really matter if a president is a Catholic or a Protestant or a Jew. It doesn't matter, as long as he follows the Constitution. The same with the Supreme Court of Israel, Supreme Court of the US, sorry. There's not one Protestant there. There might be one Jew and the rest are what? Catholic. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter unless they actually are influenced by their Catholic beliefs. Or you might say to me, quest by your Jewish beliefs or your Protestantism beliefs. Yes, that is what we call the separation of church and state. And the US don't have it anymore. We saw that when this Pete Hegseth, man, what a joke that guy is. When he was testifying in Congress just a week or so ago, and this one Congresswoman, senator, was asking him, listen, did you give an order to shoot the rioters and protesters in the left knee? Now that is an Israeli thing. Israelis are very proud of the fact that they would shoot the Palestinians protesting on their side of the fence of Palestine, shoot them in the left knee. Now I say in one of the books, I think it is, when I speak about my police days, that if we in the South African police force ever shot anybody with real bullets in the knee or anywhere else, I can tell you we would have been arrested for attempted murder, grievous assault, and all hell would have broken loose from the rest of the world. But yeah, it's Israel. Nothing happens. It's fine. No problem. And so this woman was actually asking this Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, was this after all the riots broke out in Los Angeles, where else it's a shithole, and she asked him if he gave such an order. Now, I don't know where she got it from. I mean, if you look at the exif's reaction, he was like, what the hell are you talking about? I never did that. But instead of saying that, like, Madame, I've never done that. I never. No, now he starts playing the fool. And she says, but, you know, your predecessor had such an order and he refused. I read it in his biography. And he says to her, yeah, ma'am, and I'm just paraphrasing, guys. You can look at the video yourself. And he says, yeah, ma'am, you shouldn't really take to heart what you read in books except for the Bible. And the reaction was, oh my God. Now, I don't like that expression, oh my God, because I don't think it is godly to say such things, and you shouldn't use the name of God in vain. But that goes further than that. It also means not to play act if you're like this big Christian and I see nothing in your life to show me you're an actual follower of Jesus. I don't see it. And I don't see it in the US politicians at all. I don't see it in any politician. But I fully understand the shock. Because what XF and those people don't flip and understand is he just broke that holy separation between church and state. He broke it. And I'm yet to hear anybody say anything about it. And just after that, Tucker Carlson came out and he spoke to Ted Cruz, who, by the way, is also a dual nationality person. And he says, this Ted Cruz says something, you know, I learned in Bible school that if you bless Israel, so here he goes back. This is the chosen tribe. You have to suck up to them, which the Bible says it ain't. So you have to bless them, and if you bless them, you'll be blessed, and if you don't bless them, you won't be blessed. And I exist, he said something like that. I'm in the US Congress to take care of Israel, to protect them. Wow, you're a traitor, Mr. Cruz. You're a traitor. Because your first duty is towards your own people, wouldn't you say? And besides that, you also broke this holy separation of church and state. You're just breaking it. And they keep on breaking it. And you'll say to me, but Chris, it's against the law. It's not. It's not. So what I'm trying to do here is to explain to you why the US is acting like that. Why is the US in the Israeli camp all the time? Now we have to go to something called the Third Temple theory. Now, the Third Temple theory is something which is widely believed by most Christians. Now, guys, if you want to know more about that, go online and go to Professor Dr. Walter J. White, who's a Seventh-day Adventist, as I am. And I say again to you, I'm talking as a human here, not talking on behalf of a church, not talking on behalf of Legacy Conversations or anything like that. But I'm giving you my views because you asked for my views. Now, basically what this Third Temple fable is a Jesuit scam. That's what it is. It's from a Jesuit order to believe that the Antichrist, which all the reformers, the Protestant reformers, from Martin Luther onwards, Calvin, all those people, they all identified the Pope of the papacy as the Antichrist. Talking about an institution, and here about humans as well. But I'm not saying that every single Catholic is a Satanist or something like that, guys. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you are confused and that you have been misled. And it is sad to say that, and hopefully you will wake up to what I'm saying, do your own research, and come over to the Reformation. Now, basically, because the Reformers started saying this, people like Martin Luther, and the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus, was created to destroy. That's what they want to do. Go and look at their oath. It's in my books. To destroy the Reformation, to destroy Protestantism, they had to get the heat off the Pope, because these people were now saying that, well, the Antichrist is the Pope. And they were then trying to say, no, the Pope is still in the future. That's what they were trying. And so they started writing these books and they started to get these theories out, of which the third temple was one of it, which we will talk about just now. But what is interesting is like people like Mike Pompeo and Rubio and Hegseth and probably Trump himself actually very much believe, they totally believe in this Bible. They believe in what is this fiction which they take out of the Bible and twist for their own use. It's totally it's insane. So I went to Wikipedia. It's in the books as well, and I quote to you that what is the coming of a third temple? What do they mean by that? So basically, they say the following: Orthodox Judaism believes in the rebuilding of a third temple. Now, there were two others. There was the original one, which was built by Solomon, and of course, that was destroyed. And then there was a second one, which was rebuilt as well, and that was destroyed in AD 70. And Jesus actually predicted that, and he said, not a stone will be left upon each other. And he said, your house will be left to you desolate. He never said that it will be rebuilt again on earth. Never said that. Never. So, anyway, Orthodox Judaism believes in the rebuilding of a third temple and the resumption of a korban, that is sacrifices, which is nonsense because there was already a sacrifice in the form of Jesus Christ. That's why you don't cut the throat of a goat these days when you confess. And you don't confess to a priest because it's a mere man. The Bible says confess your sins to God and confess your faults to humans. And then they go further here at the definition and they say, although there is disagreement about rebuilding should take place, Orthodox scholars and rabbinic authorities generally believe that rebuilding should occur in the era of Jewish Messiah at the hand of divine providence. Okay, then they go on and on and on. And they say the generally accepted position amongst Orthodox Jews is that the full order of the sacrifices will be resumed upon the building of a temple. This is also in their prayer services 3 times a day. They recite the Amida, which contains the prayers. Basically, what it comes down to is they say we need to rebuild the third temple, and we need to go and build it where today a mosque is standing, which is one of the holiest places for the mosques for Islam. And then they will, once they've rebuilt this temple, Jesus will come back to earth. The Jews will then miraculously somehow be saved or something, and there will be 1,000 years of peace here on earth. And, the Christian, Judaism, Zionist, whatever, will be then in charge. And that's what they want to do. And then the rest of the people who is now not part of this idea will all die. That's what it comes down to. And it started earnestly a few years ago when H. Bush made his New World Order speech. And then, of course, the move of embassy from Tel Aviv, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, to recognize Jerusalem now as the capital. And then there came this Project 2025, which is actually a Catholic doctrine, which they want to implement and which Donald Trump is implementing. So I don't disbelieve that the people who believe in this third fable, temple fable, are not sincere. In other words, I think they are very sincere, but I also think they got a completely wrong understanding of what it is about. It's based upon the Jesuit doctor of theologically, Francisco Ribeiro's theory. That's where it comes from. That's where it was first mentioned. And as I said, that was done to protect the Pope, who has been called the Antichrist. And so they started talking about that the Antichrist will then appear. So it will only appear in the future. So you don't have to worry about him being right here now, even though Paul said it's here right now. And then it came to fruition, of course, later formalized as the papacy. So you don't have to worry about him. He's only coming when the third temple is coming. And then there will be like a 3.5 years, which he will rule, and it will be only that. And then, then this Ribera there's a follow-up book by also a Jesuit, Cardinal Robert Bellarmine, in 1593. And so they wrote these things, I say again, to counter Martin Luther and the Reform movement. Go and read Rulers of Evil, written by Saucy E. Topper on this topic. He talks about it quite a lot. Or go to Vife and those people. Go and find out. Now, your problem in life here is bullshit because the temple is in heaven, and if you look at what happens when Jesus actually returns, you will find out it's in oath of evil as well. You will find out that, in fact, Jesus does not touch the earth. He hangs in the air. Those who is in him, who's dead already, will be awakened. They will have a new body in an instant. No pain, no fear, no nothing. They will go up. Those of you still alive, which might be me also, I don't know. Well, same story, you get your new body, which can't get ill or in pain or anything. You go up, you go to heaven, you will be in heaven for 1,000 years. Then you come down to the city of Jerusalem. You come out of Jerusalem. In the meantime, those who stay behind on earth are all dead now. There's no such thing as stay behind and live. Satan will be here on earth, but there's nothing he can do. He's bound. There's no one to influence. After 1,000 years, it comes down again. Those in the saints, those in Jesus will come out, marching out of Jerusalem. And then everybody who is not in that city will, of course, be around, will be resurrected again. And they will then scheme and see how they can attack the city, the holy city, and they will be destroyed by fire from heaven. I'm not going to go too deep into this because if you want to know more, I say again, go to Vife, read my book, Oath of Evil, or look at the other videos. I'm not here to preach to you guys. We're still talking about why Israel, Iran, in the US and my feeling about it. And I'm explaining to you why the US is so much in the camp of Israel. But at the same time, I'm warning that I think that they are actually setting the Jews up to be destroyed because it just is so. The Jesuits don't like Jews, don't like them at all. Then there's, of course, another thing called Christians United for Israel, which is CUFI, CUFI, or something like that. There are more than 7 million members, and that is the basis, actually, of Donald Trump's support. And they are also hooked onto this Third Temple rubbish. And it was a Dr. Philip Giraldi. He's the ex-CIA, wonderful guy. I actually quote him in many of my books with his permission. And Giraldi then said the following about this coffee, or however you say it. He said, though it is an organization that defines itself as Christian, it makes no effort to support the surviving Christian communities in the Middle East, as most of them are actually hostile to Israel. This group also supports the war against Iran as a precursor to total conflict, global conflict. And then he talks about Mike Hagee, who was in charge of this CUFI, and this guy keeps on saying the United States must join Israel in a preemptive military strike against Iran to fulfill God's plan for both Israel and the West. You see, here it comes. Here comes where they take state and church and they mix it together, and it's happening right in front of your eyes, guys. It's fantastic to see it playing out. It means the change of the end is near, because they believe that will then lead to the rapture and tribulation and the second coming of Christ. Exactly what I said to you. There's going to be a rapture. There's going to be the Antichrist in charge for 3.5 years. That's a tribulation. And then there's the second coming of Christ. It's bullshit. There's no such thing in the Bible. And don't even argue about me. I'm not interested in hearing your nonsense. I say again to you, it is not true. It is bullshit. And then besides this Pastor Hagee and there's 7 million members of CUFI, there's also about 20 million American Christian Zionists. Now, we spoke about Zionism on legacy. We spoke to Israeli women about it. It was a very interesting concept. But you do get, of course, things which are taken too far. So if you say that, look, Israel has a right to exist and the Jews have a right to exist as well, you can be classified as a Zionist and I have no problem with that. But if you start saying that, yes, they have a right to exist and no one else has, and everyone else has to be wiped out around them, then yeah, of course I have a damn problem with that. It is amazing, but this is where it comes from. And now you see how everything sticks together in the US. You have this Third Temple theory, which is based upon this, and that is why they have to destroy Iran. Then they have to build their Third Temple. To do that, they have to conquer every single Muslim nation because, sadly, as I say, for them, there is a mosque already, a very holy mosque. In brackets, not really holy, not according to me, who's a Protestant. And then from there on, they have to do this. And there you have it. You have the entire story. You have Israel being protected by the US. You have the US who's actually the second beast and doing the will of Satan, which is actually makes a lot of sense because I don't think Satan likes the Jews either. Wouldn't cry, I think, if they die. It's being set up, and then lastly we get to Albert Pike. Now, Albert Pike was a Confederate general. He was an attorney. Some say he was a brilliant man. He was brilliantly stupid, but he could speak 16 languages, so there was something about Albert Pike. And he was, of course, one of the highest ranking Freemason members ever. And he wrote a book. He wrote a book called Morals and Dogma. I'll put a picture for you here. And Morals and Dogma is basically the Bible of Freemasonry, right? And in this Bible of his, he predicts 3 world wars. The first one has happened already, and he predicted these things from the 1870s. So 40 years later, the First World War was started to break the British Empire, who at that stage was a mighty Protestant nation. See where this is coming again. And also to punish Germany. Why? Because Germany, Martin Luther, that's where the Reformation, the Protestant movement actually started. Yes, there were people before, Jan Hus and all those saints, they were there as well. But it really kicked off in Germany. So Germany had to be punished. So, of course, they were punished. And then came the Second World War, which he also predicted. And the Second World War, according to Albert Pike, was to give rise to the US of A as a world power, as the mighty nation. Now, if you read Oath of Evil as well as Codename Masamune 26, you will find out how the Jesuit order actually created, and I use that word created the US to become the second beast. It wasn't just done. It was created. I cannot repeat the story for you here. We spoke way too long already. And then this Albert Pike came out, and by the way, it was. The US after 1945 was the power. And you will see there where I quoted to you how many countries they then started attacking. I haven't even mentioned the CIA, known as Catholics in action. Yes, that's what they are known as in South America, not in a nice way either. Why? Because most of the leaders, almost every single one of them, was very devout Catholics, and all of them were kneeling in front of the Pope. Yeah, interesting. Fascinating how these things get together if you look at it from another viewpoint. But you have to read my books. I'm just touching on things. And if it's shocking to you guys, you know what? I was damn well shocked as well when I found these things out. Really shocked. I'm still shocked about it. Because I can see this is playing off. But there's deep gratefulness. I'm grateful that God gave us the intelligence so that we could see this, understand this, and carry on with this. Even though if you disagree, go and find out. Don't just shout at me. Go and find out. Do some research and see how it works out there. But then this Albert Pike predicted a third world war. Yeah. And where does this third world war start? What did he say? Middle East. There's only one country in the Middle East who can actually start a third world war. That's Israel. Sad to say that, the Jewish state. And it's doing its damn best to do it. attacking Iran was flipping stupid. Attacking Iran on Friday the 13th was especially, that's interesting because these occultists have something about dates. Now, Friday the 13th in Western culture is seen as a bad luck day, but in fact, that is the day when the last leader of the Knights of Templar were actually executed. De Molay or something, De Molay, I always have his name wrong. But he was executed on Friday the 13th. Some say it wasn't, but most historians say. And since then it became a day of bad luck. But in fact, it's a wonderful day because the Knights Templar was a horrible organization. The initiation ceremonies was to have gay and homosexual sex on the cross. That was one of them, one of the lesser ones. So it's interesting that Israel decided to attack on that day. And then if you look on when the US attacked on the 22nd of June was the same as Operation Barbarossa, where the Nazi Germany actually attacked the Soviet Union. Yeah. Do you think this is by chance? Do you think it's by chance that just happened to be these days? Or is there perhaps a occult thing behind it? Is it possible? Yeah, of course it's possible. In fact, it's extremely likely. It's also extremely likely that both the US and Israel thought in their little brains that Iran is going to fold. They were looking for regime change, put their own people in there. By doing that, they're screwing Russia as well as China. And of course, when Israel is safe, and if Israel is safe and mighty, they can build a third temple because it doesn't matter. The Muslims will never, the Islamic nations will never dare to attack them because they got big brother in the US. And everything is going to work out fine. And then Iran started attacking them back, spoiling their entire little ideas. Didn't work out. As we sit here today, Iran's nuclear program is not destroyed. It's still there. It can still be done. Go and read Codename Angel. Interesting. Go and read there because South Africa is also capable of making nuclear weapons. Yes, we did. We can do it again. And no, we didn't do it with Israeli that much assistance. Our systems work fairly unique, fairly different. Where does the Israeli nuclear weapons come from? Well, the US. They stole it from the US, the enriched uranium anyway. That's what he said. And it's going to be revealed because Iran has a treasure of these documents which we're waiting to be revealed. But they do say the detonation mechanism of the Israeli nuclear bombs are actually based upon France. They got it from France. Whether France gave it to them or the US gave it to them, I don't know. I just want to say about this AIPAC. John F. Kennedy tried to ban it. He tried to make it register as an enemy influencer or whatever they call them, that act on behalf of the state outside of the US, enemy alien act or something. Some say that is why John F. Kennedy was killed. I've spoken to many CIA officers, ex-senior people who said to me, yeah, Israel had a definite hand in the murder of the. Yeah, but I don't know. But that's where we stand now. You failed. You look at it from a tactical viewpoint, you failed. Look from a strategic viewpoint, you failed. Which means, guys, that's not good news because it means they will have to go back and try their luck again. It also means, as I think I'm repeating myself, definitely Iran now has every reason in the book to get the air defenses up to scratch and to definitely make a bomb. And then hopefully from there on, people will stop attacking each other. Israelis will say to me, yes, it's in their constitution to murder all Israelis, to wipe the Jewish state out. Well, they haven't done it yet. And I don't think you can stop it either. You cannot stop this. I don't see how you're going to stop it. What are you going to do? You don't have the ground forces to attack them. You won't be able to get there. It's too far away. Your logistic lines are too stretched, and you don't have a industrial capacity anyway. You're in Shite Street in Israel right now. You're in trouble, deep trouble, and the rest of the world is seeing that. That's a perception. And then you have the US who's flexing its muscles, which is ain't got, it's an overweight, fat little punk who's just throwing his weight around. Not going to get far against the real enemy. No, you're not. So we're looking at troubled times. Perhaps we should pray about this. Perhaps we should step back and say, well, let's just calm down. Let's just stop this ridiculousness. Let's stop mixing state and church. Let's get away from this idea that we have to go and build a third temple so we can force Jesus to come down. Who the hell are you to force Jesus to come down to earth? Huh? And the Jews don't even believe in Jesus. They see him as of course the Muslims do, as a good man, as a prophet, but definitely not the Son of God. That's the difference. As a Christian, you see Jesus as the Son of God. He is God. And if you don't do that, there's no place for you in heaven. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. It's not an open club. It's not an open society. It's a closed society. There are certain things you have to do if you want to get to heaven. And the first thing starts with obeying the Ten Commandments. That's the first thing. Now you want to bring back the sacrifices. You want to bring back the ceremonial laws. You want to deny Jesus. Hey, really. Anyway, that's my story. Thanks for listening. Have some comments if you want. And God bless. I hope you're not too angry.